Hi, my name is Tamsen Horton and I'm from Vujade Law, and this is my real video confession. So, biggest lesson learned ever in running my own company, and I have two. I have Vujade Law and I have Making Money with My JD. And Making Money with My JD has a new name because of the biggest mistake learned. And what I did is, like so many of us, I had this great idea and I was so excited about it. And I had a really good friend who thought like me and we got along really well. And, everything was perfect. And I shared this idea and I told her every piece about it, the ins, the outs. I laid the whole thing out like in this crazy mind map, and we called it like our taking over empire idea, and so many different ways it could go and this and that. Well, we kept going, we kept building, this idea, and she was still in law school and I wasn't. And so I'm working on it all the time. And I'm like, okay, it's like a marriage, so there's a give and there's a take. And sometimes one person is giving more, which is totally cool. That's what you do. But along the way, and again, this is hindsight being 2020, love hindsight. Just like when you're getting married, you ask, or at least you should be asking, some pivotal questions. Because if this is someone you're going to, marry, you're signing on for the long haul, you want to know certain questions. You want to know how they react in certain situations. And so whether you have an itemized list of questions or if you just have like this internal gut check, most of us, if we want to go into it wide open, we're asking these questions. Well, what I learned in business is exactly like a marriage, and there were red flags, and I totally glossed over them. Like, well, you had this crazy successful job. Why did you leave that and go to law school? And there was never an answer. And I didn't really push the subject, but there were just certain, questions that you're like, oh, well, but the idea is great. And we love each other and life is great. So we're just going to keep going. Well, then a year ago, this January, completely out of the blue, like when I say did not see this coming, I did not see this coming. Completely blindsided. I got an email out of the blue. Now, mind you, this was the first time in the 2 years of working on this business, the very first week that she'd ever worked full-time on the business. And, here I am having run two companies, but I have my own schedule. And so I'm used to doing things without someone else giving me work. And suddenly I have this person who had no time, who now has all the time in the world, creating all these things for me. And we had, there were some personal things that happened in our family, and like it just all snowballed at the same time, which I now realize was the universe's way of undoing 2 years in the fastest 24-hour period possible. But I get this email out of the blue that says, I don't think we need to talk about schedules. I don't think your heart is in this business at all. I'm like, what? Like, are you kidding me? Like, this is my baby. And this was what is now Making Money with My JD. Which is it was like saying you don't love your child. I'm like, what the heck? Like, I created this, like I came up with everything and I have this and that. And I get, I'm giving you 50% ownership in all of it. That would be the large business mistake. Do not give up your intellectual property equity at all, ever. And so literally over the next 12 hours, and I tried calling, no call back. I tried emailing, no email back. I tried texting, no texting back. Meanwhile, this issue that I said, we've got to stop doing this part, like she was communicating with our client base. And I'm like, okay, we got to stop this because you and I aren't on the same page. And so just tell them to hold off. And our response was, well, no, we told them we'd get it out. I'm like, just calm down. They can wait, till Monday morning. Like, we've got to figure out what's going on because you send me an email that says my heart's not in this company when it's my company. And yeah, literally over a weekend, completely unraveled. Now, thank goodness the world was looking out for me because the state of Michigan's website was malfunctioning, and so I couldn't file the LLC paperwork that I'd been trying to do for like 2 weeks. And without that, you couldn't get bank accounts. And so it unraveled so quickly that I didn't have to go through the legal stuff to get her out as a partner, to bank accounts, to have what would have ended up being a very nasty fight. It was hard. I mean, it was so hard because it was exactly like a divorce. It was someone that I was so close to, like we were planning family vacations and, things to do with our, families together and all these huge ideas. And like it unraveled in 12 hours. The entire last 2 years just unraveled completely. To like joint ventures and partnerships, and you get so caught up like you do when you're in love, like, oh, it's wonderful. And then you start overlooking what are major flaws. You're like, oh, minimize. But then looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, like respect is a huge thing for me. You can disagree with me all the time. I don't mind that. But when you treat people disrespectfully, for me, that's a deal breaker. Like we don't recover from that. We don't talk our way out of that one. And that's what it was with this, when it went down, I was like, please call me, please do this. Nothing until Monday morning. So that has been by far my biggest business mistake, which my husband, now I let him screen people because he saw it 2 years before I did. He's like, are you sure about this? Like something seems off with her. No, she's wonderful. There's never been anyone that thinks like I do. This is the best thing ever. Honey, you're being too picky. Well, I think just like girls can see things in other boyfriends and husbands that are girlfriends, like girls can see stuff in guys that guys don't see. I think guys can see the reverse, or friends, whatever it is. So just losing the 2 years. And when it was all said and done, my husband said, you seem far more upset about the loss of the friendship than you do the business. And he was right, because on one hand, I had the security of knowing that everything I had created on the business front was mine and I could recreate it. I could build it again, which I've done. But it was the loss of that friendship and that sheer feeling of violation and being betrayed that really it's taken me almost a year to recover from something that on paper really never existed. And so I think that was definitely my biggest failure, being naive, whatever. I don't know what you categorize it as, but that was definitely the biggest oops I've made.